What's up, everybody? Welcome back to BitLab Academy. I have an incredible guest today to talk about one of what I think is going to be the most hidden gem. We got Dagnum here, and he is here from basically Constellation Dag. How did you get from the Department of Defense to now be rolling out into retail, and why should anybody be considering Constellation Dag over anything else?
Yeah, well, it's an exciting day. So I'm here representing Stardust Collective, which is the community side of Constellation Network. And today is a big day because they opened up their first ever inaugural hackathon. And we at Stardust Collective actually put up half of the funds for this hackathon. So in total, it's $100,000 in prizes. And it's not just Stardust and Constellation that are putting this on. There's actually big partners. We have Panasonic, IBM, and Symbichain that are all partnering this event. And so it's a big deal. I mean, the fact that these two major enterprises are standing behind this hackathon should give everybody the validation and the comfort that it's okay to build on this chain. I use blockchain as just a general term, but for those people who actually understand the technology, Constellation's distributed ledger technology, which is another term for blockchain. Constellation's architecture is actually based off of a directed acyclic graph. And so in that aspect, it can do multiple things simultaneously, and it can also scale. So instead of waiting for one transaction to process, it can actually process multiple transactions at once. DAG, on the other hand, is if you had thousands of checkouts all happening at the same time. And everybody's checking out different stuff, but all these transactions are all happening simultaneously and instantly. And so that makes it faster. So you don't have to wait on the checkout next to you because you're in a separate checkout. That's probably the easiest way to explain the difference between a directed acyclic graph and a blockchain. The other reason that the Department of Defense specifically was interested in this technology, because it's a DAG architecture, it's actually quantum resistant. If you're wanting to build an application, if you're IBM, Microsoft, Panasonic, all these people that are in a roundabout way already doing stuff with this technology, would you want to go with another network that has had downtime or security issues? Or are you wanting to go with somebody that has already been battle tested as a secure, scalable solution by the Department of Defense? And that has actually been achieved on Constellation's network because they built a private layer one chain for US TransComm. And that's the other advantage of Constellation's technology. You can take your existing Web 2 applications and just plug it right into their framework. And that's really what we're hoping to see from this hackathon.
Tell us about this hackathon. Is this something that anybody can get involved with? Is this something that you're specifically looking just for devs, or is there a broader thing here where it's kind of a cross between getting the word out but also getting devs involved? What's your goal with this initiative?
Yeah, so the goal really is just to showcase what's possible, and we are really trying to go after the developer community, because the wider developer community might not be aware that you can utilize these tools right now. So the same tools that have already been in the hands of the Department of Defense, you can get access to those tools and build out these crazy applications. And it's not just Web3 tooling. It's you could take your existing Web 2 business or application and plug that in. I mean, there's tons of different ways that this technology can be utilized. A couple of weeks ago, the Constellation, they built out a different metagraph. They built out this alpaca metagraph, so it's like a social token. And to get like what you were talking about, different data points all converging into one place and doing the transactions on that. It's that type of application that's not really possible on any other networks. So how this alpaca token initially is working from Constellation, I'll also make a note that that Metagraph example is on their public GitHub repo. So any developer can literally just copy and paste what's on the public GitHub and change it and tweak it into their own use case. But how Constellation is initially showing out the use case is it's rewarding people with these packet tokens by several different metrics. One, by performing swaps on within the Stargazer wallet. There's Exolix, so that's one of the partners. So if you perform a swap or you buy a token, you get rewarded with this packet token. The other way you can get rewarded with a packet token is if you're on a wait list for a node. So then that's two separate places that it's looking for data, but it's rewarding you with a token. And so how you can actually scale this out in a more meaningful way is, let's say you guys, right? BitLab Academy, you guys had your own Metagraph. You could have your BitLab token. And to engage and incentivize your community, you could have call to action. And when people hit that call to action, reply, subscribe to your YouTube channel, they could get rewarded with this BitLab token. Leave a comment on YouTube, leave a comment on X, join Telegram, do all these different things. And they could each get rewarded with a token. How is that valuable? Well, a couple of weeks ago, I pointed out to everybody that isn't quite seeing what's happening so I'm going to talk about another network for just a second. The open network, TOM, T-O-M, right? So they have all these crazy apps on Telegram, and they initially launched their tokens in the same sort of manner. It was to engage and incentivize participation in the community. So last year, the open network, it wasn't even in the top 100 market cap. And all of a sudden in May, they're a top 10, and that's all you need.
Tell me a little bit about Panasonic, if there's any other sort of partnerships or strong governing bodies or other things within the crypto ecosystem, within the AI ecosystem that you all are already currently working with or aligning with into the future.
Yeah, and you bring up an interesting point that I've noticed personally about the broader crypto community. It's this get rich quick, this instant gratification. But if you look at it from a traditional standpoint, the approach that Constellation is doing isn't any different than Amazon. Amazon first, IPO'd like in the mid 90s, right? And it essentially didn't really do much until the mid 2000s. Jeff, nonetheless, persevered. He knew what he was doing, and he knew that this stuff was the future. And Constellation, in the same sort of manner, has understood for quite a while that at the end of the day, the underlying infrastructure that ties in everything, AI, physical devices, it's all just data. And that's what they've been doing. They've been building this physical infrastructure to manage and streamline data. And to get back to your question about the broader partnerships that are important to the people that are going to sort of the decision makers and the policy makers. What I like to point out to people, if you want to get a window into actually what is happening, right now the big news is Trump's going to be at Nashville talking about blockchain and the government. Well, nobody is deeper involved within the blockchain space than Constellation's network. So it's not just the Air Force, it's not just the Department of Defense or the Space Force. You can look at what they're doing with the National Digi Foundry.
Can you talk about a little bit about that? And does Constellation DAG have any sort of integration with that as well? Is that also part of, for instance, the U.S. Air Force partnership, or how is blockchain integrated?
So if you head back to that DigiFoundry website and you actually open the secure the Space Force. So if you go down, there's a space into the Space Force working group tab. So you can see that it's not just Space Force. There we go, Space Force working group. Just open up that tab there. you can see that it's not just Space Force, and then look for everybody to see that's not a Bitcoin address. That's not even a Solana address or an Ethereum address. That's a DAG address. That's a Constellation DAG address. And if you follow that address and you go on to Constellations Explorer, you can actually see that there's real tokens associated with that.
I mean, I don't even think we're at 0.1% of the use cases that these blockchains are going to be deployed into the future. And because of that, I think DAG is very beautifully positioned because of how fast it can operate, because you can do multiple things at one time, considering we haven't even really ideated many of the use cases are going to be there. So something that's limited or has congestible networks, I think, is already setting themselves up for failure into the future, since we haven't identified all the different use cases that are going to be employed.
No, you're exactly right. And you bring up smart contracts, which are a great, useful tool and starting point. But smart contracts are actually old technology, and the advantage Metagraphs has over smart contracts. So smart contracts are automated, and that's great, and they can be secure, and that's great, but they're limited. What you can do with them from an application standpoint is pretty limited. It's just if this happens, then this is the outcome, right? But in real life, you have multiple things happening all at once. And that's the beauty of these metagraphs. You can have custom consensus. So you can tailor your application and to have multiple different scenarios all simultaneously hitting, and then have your internal consensus mechanism figure out, what to do from there.
Thank you so much to Dagnum PI for being here. My name's Kelly Kellum. Make sure you're going through those links that I shared in the stream, as well as the links down below. I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful day. This message brought to you by diligence, because that's what we need to do if we want to make it in this world. Everybody, hope you have a wonderful day. That's all I got. Adios, muchachos.